Hello, this is Marta with Classes for Teens. Today we will be doing a pre-algebra review. This is the third one over exponents and more about order of operation. Okay, let's get started by reviewing what exponents do or how they work. When you have a number like this, it's called the base, and something written up above it on the right, that's the exponent. It's also called the power. So it says an exponent or a power is a mathematical operation of repeated multiplication. So it's telling us actually to multiply, and that number, the exponent, the power, is telling us how many times we multiply the base out. So b to the n means b raised to the power of n. That's how you read it. So 5 to the third means that you take a 5 and you multiply 5 times itself, 5 times 5 times 5, 3 times, because the exponent tells you how many times you multiply the base together. So in that case, 5 to the third is 125. This is something that you're going to want to learn to do on your calculator. I am using the TI 36X Pro calculator, and I'm going to verify this last one for us. I'm taking the 5, which is right here. And you have a choice. You can put the squared button, but this isn't squared, or to the power button. So let's choose that. And I push the x to the power. And here's the 3. And you can see on the display, it says 5 to the third. And we hit enter. So it will do the calculation for us, and it gives us 125. Okay? So 7 to the second. First of all, let's write that out. This is called exponential form, because it's written with an exponent. The first thing we're going to do is write it in expanded form, which means we're going to write it as 7 times 7. We do that 2 times because the power tells us that. 7 times 7 is 49, okay? The next one is 10 to the third, and when if all possible, we are going to do these in our head, but we don't mind to use a calculator when needed. This is the base of 10, so we're multiplying 10 times itself, and it's to happen 3 times because the power tells us that. So that's going to be a 1 followed by 3 zeros, 1,000. Okay? And then we have 4 to the fifth. This is one we probably want to grab our calculator for. This is 4 times 4, and we do that 5 times. All right, so I'm going to grab my calculator, and I'm going to take 4 raised to the power 5, enter, 1,024. Obviously, if you don't want to use your exponent button, you can take 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 on your calculator and multiply it out. But if the power is very big, you're going to be doing a lot of work. Now, this is something like they used to like to test on the ACT with, if you knew what to do about the negative that's sticking in front versus the negative that's in the parentheses. Now, our calculator knows exactly what to do with it. I'm going to actually begin with example number 5 down here. If I think of intuitively what this means with my new definition, I know that it means that I'm taking a negative 9 and I'm multiplying, because this whole thing is squared. So we take the whole thing and multiply it times itself 2 times. Negative 9 times negative 9 is a positive. We did that in the last review. It's 81, okay? This is different here. The second degree power only applies to the 8. So that little negative that's sticking out front is just sticking out front. So it's like we have a negative. You could even think of it as a negative 1. And then 8 squared means 8 times 8. So the negative is sticking out front. It's not being squared. In order to be squared, it has to be included into the part that's raised to the power. So here we have, again, the negative out front. I keep changing colors on that. 8 times 8 is 64. All right, so let's do these on our calculator and verify this. Let's take negative 8 to the second. So remember, when using your calculator, you subtract with this button, but the negative is a different button, usually down near the equal sign. Negative 8 to the power 2, or squared. I just put squared. Notice there's no parentheses, and we get a negative 64. All right, this is different. We're going to put a parentheses, and we're going to put the -9 inside of the parentheses, then raise that to the power 2, and we get a positive 81. So it's going to change the sign depending whether that negative is inside or outside the parentheses. All right, let's try the next one. And that's true only for even powers. With odd powers, when you have an odd number of negatives, it turns out negative, so it'll be the same either way with odds. So we're getting ready to find that out with this example. So let's see if I can tip my camera a little bit. Yeah, that's better. All right, so here we have a -5 to the third. So we're going to use our calculator to do this in a minute, but let's write it out. That's -5, 3 times, and multiplying -5 together. So negative times negative times negative makes a negative, and 5 times 5 is 25 times 5 is 125. So that should be 125. We can verify this in a minute with our calculator, okay? That we got it right. Now let's try the next one, and that has a negative sticking out front. So with exponents that are even, it makes a big difference, but odds, it's not going to matter. So here I have the negative sticking out front, and then I take 5 times 5 times 5, because only the 5 is going to the third here. So that's going to give me a negative out front, and then a 125. Don't ask me why I'm using 2 colors on this, because I don't have a good answer for it. Okay, let's try it on our calculator. So the first one is clear, parentheses, -5, close parentheses, to the power 3, and we get -125, as opposed to negative out front, and then 5 to the power 3, which we also get -125. With odd powers, it's not different, okay? With even powers, it does make a big difference. Okay. Now these involve not only working with exponents, which we've now reviewed, but also order of operation, which we reviewed in the last video. The examples last time were pretty simplistic, and I thought about giving you some harder ones, but I didn't because I knew we needed to cover exponents first. So let's go ahead and do that. With order of operation, remember we're doing parentheses first, please, exponents, excuse, my dear, multiply and divide from left to right in the order that it comes, and then from left to right do your addition and subtraction. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And my dear happens at the same time left to right, and Aunt Sally add and subtract across from left to right. So in the innermost parentheses, that would be right here, I have a subtraction. That's all I have to do, so I'll go ahead and do it first. Notice each time as I show my work for my teacher, I show all the numbers. I copy everything that I'm not changing, and then I do the calculation. 6 minus 9 is -3, and that has to be to the third. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is take -3 to the third. So if you wanted to show that, you could take -3 times -3 times -3, or you could take your calculator, and that's going to get a negative. 3 times 3 is 9 times 3 is 27. So I'm going to have a 4 times a -27. All right, and 4 times -27 is, I'm running out of room. I'm going to go up there. It's -100. Oops, sorry, I had trouble writing that. -108. Okay, so I wish I'd left a little more room vertically for that because it would be better, but the answer is -108. And grab your calculator if you need it to multiply things like that. It's the 21st century. Okay, here we go. 7 to the third. That one I'm going to grab my calculator on. All right. 7 to the third power is 343. Oh, what am I doing? Okay, follow order of operation. Officially, we should do this first. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to, instead of copying down 7 to the third, I'm going to go ahead and work it at the same time. You can actually do a couple steps at once if you do them in the right order. So I went ahead and calculated that because that's going to come next. First, I need to do this parentheses part and raise that to the power, right? Which is really the same as raising this to the power. So I'm doing my powers first. That parentheses isn't really doing much. It's just sort of sitting there. So -4 to the second means -4 times -4, which is +16. Okay, so you can show that step if you want. What I did was I copied the negative sign down right there, And then I took -4 times -4 and got positive 16. So now I'm looking at 343 minus 16. And we get 327 as the answer. And you can show more work on that if it makes you comfortable. I think you need to show a little work to prove to the teacher you didn't just type it straight into your calculator, right? Okay. On this one, there are no parentheses, so order of operations says do exponents next. And so that's what I'm going to do. And I'm noticing these signs here. Those are addition and subtraction. That's what I'm going to do next. So as I go, I'm going to copy those around. 2 to the third is 2 times 2, which is 4 times 2 is 8. So that's going to be 8. 5 to the second is 5 times 5, which is 25. Copying those signs down. 5 to the third is 5 times 5 times 5, which is 125. Copy down this subtraction. 2 to the second is 2 times 2, which is 4, okay? And now we're going to calculate this. So if I'm doing it mentally, I think take 125 and take the 25 off of it. That's 100. So we're going to have 108 minus 4, which should be 104, okay? Feel free to use your calculator if you're allowed to do that. But I'm just telling you how mentally I calculate these because some shortcuts can be helpful. Okay, simplify again. So this time we do have some order of operation to work with. We have inside this first parentheses and inside the second parentheses to deal with. Notice those two parentheses are jammed together. So that's telling me that these are going to multiply once I figure them out. Then I'm going to add this part. So first I'm going to work in the parentheses. 5 minus 4 is 1. And 4 plus 4 is 8. And I'm keeping those in parentheses and copying down the 3 to the second power. Now, next goes exponents. So I multiply that. 3 times 3, right? That's what exponents do. They multiply the base times itself that many times. That's 9. And we can go ahead and multiply this, right? We could copy it and do it one more step if you wanted. But might as well multiply it. That's what's coming next. And 8 plus 9 is 17. All right. And it wouldn't be a bad idea as I'm going along to circle answers, but I'm not going to worry about that since I haven't done it at all. Okay. And let's do the very last one on order of operations. That includes some exponential stuff. Whee! Now, I notice there are lots of parentheses here. Really a disturbing number of parentheses, not really. And when I'm looking at this, I notice I have a bracket and inside the bracket of parentheses. According to order of operation, we work the innermost parentheses first. So this is what I'm supposed to do first, right there. The innermost parentheses. So I'm going to copy the rest of this junk down as I go. Bracket 7 plus. Now let's do that. 11 minus 6 is 5, right? Okay. Bracket. So we took care of that. So I dropped its parentheses. Minus. Now, is there any reason that we don't go ahead and do this parentheses? I don't know. We could leave it or do it. It doesn't really matter. I'll just leave it. I'll do it with the next step. Okay. In the next step, I'm going to do both of these parentheses, right? Because we have to finish parentheses in order of operation. 21 minus 7 plus 5 is 12 minus. Now, in the parentheses, when I work this, it's going to work out to be a 2, and it's still cubed. So the next thing I want to do is my exponent. And obviously, you're going to be able to do some shortcuts and cut out some of these steps. I'm doing more than's necessary. 2 to the third is 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 8. And then we have 8 and 12 is 20, right? So I'm subtracting 20 from 21, which is going to give me 1. Okay, and again, feel free to grab your calculator and check your answers. Don't do it on the calculator. Use your brain, but then check it with your calculator. Okay? I'll see you for Pre-Algebra Review 4 soon.